In my last video lesson, I demonstrate how to add context actions. We also create an observable collection to update the list content whenever we add or remove an item from the collection. But what if the app is being used by multiple users and from time to time there are changes in the data like status and other information? Observable collection cannot identify these changes. In this case, we need to refresh the list. To do that, we need to use a PullToRefesh. ListView control has the ability to allow the user to pull down from the top of the list view to trigger an event or a refresh command. Good day everyone. I'm Michael, and I'm using a text-to-speech program to have a more clear speech in audio. In this video lesson, you will learn how to refresh the content of the ListView's items source using PullToRefesh. Now let's open the Visual Studio and do some coding. So here is our previous project with context actions. Before we enable the PullToRefesh, let's update the item and see what happens. Let's change the edit menu item to dropped. Back to the code behind. Remove this code. To query from our data source, which is a list, we are going to use a LINQ or language integrated query. It's a powerful query language for different data sources. To use LINQ, we need to include the namespace that defines the functions of LINQ. This code simply updates the status of the selected item from being enrolled to dropped. Let's run the app. Though we used the observable collections, the list is not updated. Updating the item's value from the data source will not notify the list view element. Now let's add PullToRefesh in the list. Inside the list view element, I set the isPullToRefesh to true, so that whenever we pull down the list, the refresh icon appears at the top of the list. Then here we also add an event called refreshing. From this event, we can do anything like calling a method or update a list or database. Let's go to code behind. Here I set the item source to null to reset its current content. And this code, I set the item source to an updated list. Let's run the app again. The list is updated, the only problem left is that the refresh icon is still visible. To solve this, just call the endRefresh method after the item source is loaded. Let's run the app again. You might be thinking that why not put this code to the event handler of the menu item, so that we don't need to manually refresh the list? Well, that depends on your application. If your app is standalone and not connected to a remote server, that's okay. But if your application has multiple users and every day someone changes or updates their information, putting your code here will not be advisable. In my next video lesson, we will be adding a search button to our project. That's all for this video lesson. If you have questions, suggestions, something to add, or you think something is missing or incorrect to the lesson, please let me know. Again, this is Michael, thank you and see you at my next video lesson. Keep safe everyone.